Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Neptune's Child Tarot. Thank you all so much for being here, your continued love and support on the channel. If you would like to book a private reading with me, you can find my email down below in the description box. Just send me an email and I will provide you with more information on booking readings as well as other services with me. So today's pick a card. We're going to be doing a message from your shadow self. Now, I am going to be using this new deck that I did receive as a donation to the channel that was purchased from my Amazon wishlist. It is the Secret Language of Darkness. So we're going to be using this today. Now, this deck, we're doing shadow work, okay? So if that is something that you're not prepared for, like if you're not feeling the most, I want to say, emotionally or mentally stable at this time to receive at this time with this kind of information, you might want to come back to this reading at a different time. Okay, I am going to be reading the message for the card from this book. Now, I know that some of you don't like that, and if that bothers you, you might want to skip this reading. But I am gonna, this deck creator put in a lot of intention into the messages with each of these cards. And aside from me using my own intuition and what I'm gathering from the message, I also want to take a look at what the intention was for the creator and what the energy that they put into the message here, because that can also be something that helps to deepen the message for those of you that really want to kind of dive deeper into that. So if you're not about, listening to me read, I'm saying that because I did see a comment, I think it was last week, there was a video that I did, another pick a card reading where I actually read from the book and someone made a really not needed comment about that. So if you don't like hearing, readers use guidebooks, and I feel like this is something that I've seen people, both sides. You can't please everyone, okay? Some people are like, why don't you read the book? Why didn't you get the message? Why didn't you look at that? Then other people are saying, why are you reading from that? So I'm just letting you guys know. I'm going to be reading from the book. And if you don't like it, you can skip this one. Simple as that. You don't have to be here. But for those of you that want to and are open to it, we're gonna pull one of these cards for each of you. I also have some other handwritten messages that I use for readings as well. So we'll be adding those in, as well as tarot and some more oracle cards to be pulling in a message from your shadow self, okay? If you do feel drawn, and also thank you so much to Brittany. Brittany is the one who sent this deck in for us to use for the channel. Okay, so let's get started. A message from your shadow self. So group number one, you are going to be this little tiger tail Jasper. A message from your shadow self, group number one. That one. Group number two, you have blue agate. A message from group two's shadow self. And then group three, you are going to be this little fuchsia crystal. It's actually clear quartz that's been dyed that fuchsia color. Group three. Okay, so let's see what we've got. Group number one, a message from your shadow self. We have integrity, and it says loyal to innermost truth. Card number 42, and that is with the tiger tail Jasper. Group number 2, we have card number 8 with self-awareness. And it says observe from a balanced perspective. And that is with the blue agate. Group number 3, we have card number 34, Intimacy Shadow, and it says beyond fear to connection. And that is with this little fuchsia dyed quartz. Okay, if you do feel drawn to more than one today, that is perfectly okay for today's reading. Go with whatever you feel the most intuitively drawn to. So card number 42, Integrity for group 1 with the tiger tail Jasper. Group 2, you have card number 8, Self-Awareness with the blue agate. And then group number 3, you have card number 34, Intimacy Shadow with the fuchsia dyed quartz. Pause the video if you need a little bit more time, and I will see you all at your reading. Hi, Group 1. So those of you that resonated with the Integrity card, it says loyalty to your innermost truth. Okay. So let's start off with the message here, number 42. Okay, so it says, in the quiet moments when there are no distractions and we have only ourselves for company, honest feelings, reflections, hopes, and fears can stir into consciousness. Any unease or worry that you may have been ignoring can suddenly become loud and present. This card suggests you've been avoiding the quiet moments and there is a self-truth you aren't keen on tackling. Take a breath and draw on your courage. It's time to have an honest conversation with yourself so you can be free from this energy zapping avoidance. Integrity is not just about you. When you lie to yourself, you lie to others. When you aren't honest with yourself, can you expect others to be honest with you? Have you promised yourself you would or wouldn't do something but let yourself down? If someone else continually broke their word, you would stop trusting them. Perhaps you are avoiding yourself as you feel unsettled, guilty, or disappointed that you haven't achieved. Perhaps you are avoiding yourself as you feel unsettled, guilty, or disappointed that you haven't achieved, overcome, completed, or committed to something you had set your mind on. Be gentle with yourself. It's okay. Instead of making promises that can perpetuate self-doubt and diminish your faith in yourself, listen to and support your whole self. Honor your word to love and cherish your past, present, and future selves, and your integrity will strengthen naturally. Okay? So there's some kind of truth here, and I feel like that's what we're going to go with. We're going to ask Spirit, first off, what Spirit wants to say about this message from your shadow self, and then I think that we'll kind of look at what truth is this. Okay. And of course, this is a general reading. It's going to be different for all of you, but some of you may resonate, with the message that does come through. So we'll see how it goes. So group number 1, Spirit, what is this about integrity? This message about integrity and being loyal to their innermost truth. We have the 9 of Cups, the Wheel of Fortune, the 6 of Wands, and Justice. And the Page of Swords. I don't know if we're going to fit this in here. Let me take a quick look. I have to move this down a little bit. Okay. Four of Wands is at the bottom. So the Four of Wands has to do with our house, our home, our family, relationships, our environment. So some of you could be in a committed partnership or even married, or have something to do with family members. Okay. Now, with the Page of Swords being here, Page of Swords is about messages, communication, information, learning something, gathering information, something that we need to learn, something that we need to see. It has a lot to do with our voice and learning to express ourselves. Now, the Page of Swords is when we kind of put the court cards, for those of you that are not familiar, I know some of you know this already, but when we put the court cards, which are the pages, the knights, the queens, and the kings, and we spread them out, the pages represent a certain level of immaturity, meaning that this skill perhaps is underdeveloped. Okay, so we have a page here. When it comes to the swords have to do with communication, thoughts, our words, and our actions. Okay, the way that we think, the way that we speak, the way that we act. So there's something here within your shadow, and it almost feels like this could be like your inner child's voice of needing to express something. And I feel like because we have the Six of Wands here, this is about validation. It's about recognition, appreciation, being seen, being heard. Okay? The Justice card has to do with fairness, balance, and also integrity. So maybe with certain family members or friends or romantic partners, we're needing to express something. Maybe we feel undervalued by a family member or a romantic partner or by a friend. Maybe we feel like we wanted to be treated with more respect, with honesty. Maybe we need to speak something honestly. Okay? Now, the Nine of Cups is what we started off with, which has to do with contentment, satisfaction, and fulfillment. So is there something that we want to speak about where we want a person to appreciate us more, or to value us, or to recognize when there are certain things that we do? And are we feeling that maybe that is not being given in return? Like where you could be someone who is always there for that family member or that friend, and you feel like the other person doesn't value you, doesn't see you, doesn't listen to you, doesn't hear you, what you're trying to say, doesn't take time to understand, doesn't take time to ask questions, So what is underneath that? The Queen of Cups. Now, the Queen of Cups, look at that. There it is. The Queen of Cups is a very nurturing energy. I almost feel like I want to cry, because I feel like for some of you, this is hard, because that Queen of Cups energy is being so loving, being so nurturing, being so supportive, caring, kind, compassionate, empathetic. And I feel like you're someone who wants that in return. You're somebody who wants that in return, who wants to be seen in that same way, that you also want love, need love. The Five of Pentacles has to do with lack, abandonment, rejection. Okay? The feeling of unworthiness, the feeling of emptiness, void, not being good enough, wanting to some kind of or some form of validation, wanting to be seen. Wanting to be loved. Now, with the Wheel of Fortune here, the major arcanas, we've got the Wheel of Fortune and we have Justice. This almost makes me feel like this is tied into some kind of karmic cycle or a certain pattern or cycle that keeps repeating here. Okay. Now, this is, you know, we want to express when we feel our needs are not being met. Right? Like, hey, I do all these things for you, but I don't feel like you're giving to me in return. Sometimes we don't know how to say that or how to ask for it because we don't want to be a bother. We don't want to cause a fight. So what do we end up doing? Neglecting the self. Right? And when what it is that you really feel, your truth. I don't feel like I'm receiving enough. This person doesn't see me. They don't value me. We might be lying to ourselves and saying, I'm content, I'm fine, this is good enough, when inside, it really isn't. Are we not speaking our truth because we fear rejection? We fear abandonment. We don't want to lose someone. Even if it's a friend, right? Or we don't want to tell that friend, like, hey, I was there for you last week, but when I need you, you're not here. Because what are they going to do? Are they going to leave us? Are they going to shut us out? Are they going to stop talking to us? Are they going to stop paying attention to us? That's where this is coming from. A lack of security, right? So it feels like with the inner child here, maybe some of you do have abandonment wounds, rejection wounds. If you've ever been ghosted, if you've ever been rejected by someone, it's not a good feeling. And oftentimes we do internalize that. We start to begin to think that we're not enough, that we're not worthy, that we're not good enough. And it might even lead us into some unhealthy patterns of behavior of attention-seeking behaviors. Right? All the while to make this feeling of emptiness or void or abandonment or rejection go away. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there, but I do want to ask Spirit. I think I'm going to grab another deck and we're going to ask Spirit here, what is this truth? What is this truth? What is this truth from within you that needs to be expressed? Because here it feels like we can't find the words to describe it or to voice it. And it could even be that if we've gone through things as a child, right? Oftentimes if we go through trauma or have some really challenging experiences, we often get stuck in that underdeveloped place, maybe with communicating or the way that we think. We might still think very childlike, you know? And a lot of that too has to depend on the environment that we grew up in. If we have parents who don't want to listen to you, go over there, go to your room where there's neglect, or they're dismissive. You try to talk to them or you try to show them something and they don't have the time for it. Or you have siblings, right? That's another one. You've got siblings and one sibling where the parents are doting all on that other sibling and you feel like, wow, what I did today at school doesn't even matter because they just care about what this other sibling is doing. Like, that's the golden child and I'm the black sheep. So yeah, let's see what this is here. What is the innermost truth that group 1 needs to face or listen to? What is this truth? The Star. We've got the Star, Strength, the 8 of Pentacles, the Tower, 5 of Wands, and the 7 of Wands. 10 of Pentacles is at the bottom. So again, some of you, I mean, this is having to do with relationships here. Romantic, family, friends. Some of you are too nice. Too nice. You let things slide. The 8 of Pentacles is about putting in a lot of effort, a lot of hard work. And the 5 of Wands can talk about conflict with others. Okay, so we're looking at is some kind of truth that we could be maybe avoiding, is what this message was saying, right? We've been avoiding something. What is that truth? Some of you might be putting in way too much effort into something with someone who might not be compatible with you. The 5 of Wands is about tension, conflict, fights, arguments. It's also about competition, sometimes jealousy, sometimes petty fights and arguments. Okay. If you are someone who is angry, you know, the Strength card is about being calm and being able to have a good handle on our emotions, not suppressing them, okay, not suppressing them, but learning how to deal with them, how to understand them, how to process them. Now the Tower energy is here, which is, I mean, this is crazy energy. The Tower is Pluto and why am I blanking right now? Pluto and Mars. Excuse me. Pluto and Mars energy, which is a lot. It's a lot. Mars is can bring in a lot of like very confronting energies. The Tower can be about needing to release something. So this almost kind of feels that for some of you, there's a need for having boundaries, standing up for yourself, standing your ground, not backing down, you know? Like if you feel something, if, you know, there's tension building, right? The Tower just kind of it all just comes out, gets released. The Tower is also very unstable energy, you know? Now, what I would say with this, okay, is some of you might be the type of people where for the good majority of the time you're in this Strength card energy where you're just chill. You're calm. You're calm. But then sometimes you might get into this Tower energy where you're just like, it all comes out. It kind of feels like there's no in between. So what this kind of feels like is that there's a buildup. There's a buildup of energy. And this is a very calm and peaceful, We're calm. We're so peaceful over here. And then it kind of feels like for you, group 1, there's no in between. It's either that you are calm and chill and peaceful, or you are just maybe flying off the handle. And what this is really saying to me, like I said, is maybe there's a lot of things that you want to say that you're not saying. Things that are not sitting well with you. And you hold it in, be nice, be calm, be patient, because that's also what the Strength card is about, patience. Right? That little lion inside of you wants to rage and is upset and is angry and is hurt. But we're keeping the peace. Why? Because we don't want to lose someone. We don't want to be rejected. We don't want to be abandoned. We want someone to pay attention to us. We want someone to love us. We want all of that, right? We're trying to keep the peace. So there could be certain things that we don't say that we find conflict with until one day we get to our limit, right? And I know because I'm a fire sign. And this is me. This is me because I let it build and build and build, and then look out, everyone. Look out. Because yeah, once you make me mad, that's it. I only have so much patience, and then that's it. You're done. Move out of the way. Yeah, this is like, I mean, literally the crown is being blown off the top, right? So the 5 of Wands to me is like there's conflict there. There's tension building. And Mars can be a very confronting, in your face. Both of those planets, right? Pluto and Mars are very warlike, right? So this makes me feel, like I said, there could be tension building with family members, with friends, with relationships. There's a need for boundaries. Maybe people don't respect those boundaries. Maybe some of you could be a pushover, right? People pleasers. This is, I'm hearing like no means no. No means no. 7 of Wands, stand your ground. Stand up for yourself. This is defending yourself, protecting yourself. Okay? I want to look at this 5 of Wands here. Maybe some of you need to work on your anger, okay? Because this isn't good either, It's not good either. I'm still working on it for myself too, because I'm someone who just, for the most part, I have a very just chill, calm, nice, kind. But then, yeah, get me to that point, and that's it. This is chaos with the Tower. Upheaval. Disaster, right? Why is the 5 of Wands here? 4 of Cups. Okay, so that's what's going on within you. That's what we're not saying. That's neglect. That's rejection. Okay? This is also overlooking something, ignoring something. You feel conflict inside. It doesn't sit well with you, and we're ignoring it. We're trying to distract ourselves from what that person just said, from what that person just did. I can't believe they did that. The tension is building. We're getting angry, but we don't say anything. Oh my goodness. Okay. So why is the 5 of Wands here? the Empress and the Knight of Pentacles. Some of you, this might be going back to mother wound. Okay. It could very well be something that is affecting your feminine energy. I feel like you also, because if you're dealing with something right now where your emotional needs are not being met and you are feeling rejected, emotionally neglected by someone, not seen, okay? You're not being nurtured. There's the Empress. Can you really see yourself dealing with this for the long term? With a person that's like that? Maybe it's a friend. Does it serve you? Right? Let's just say we have a partner who's emotionally neglectful, who's dismissive, who's emotionally detached. We want to feel loved. We're worthy of love. We're worthy of being nurtured and cared for and honored and appreciated and valued. So if the internal conflict that is within your inner voice is saying, hey, group one, you're not receiving what you need. Stop acting like this is okay for you. That you're content with the little attention that this person gives to you. You're really not. You're not okay with that. Because in a way, when we're doing this, we're denying the self. We're neglecting the self. You're neglecting your needs. Can we really see ourselves dealing with that for the long term? Over an extended period of time of being in that place of lack, not receiving what you're worthy of. Is it worth all these efforts that you're trying to put in to hold something together that maybe the universe is saying to you, hey, let go? Right? Because the Tower comes in as divine intervention. Are we trying to work so hard to hold something together that the universe has been saying, you've been ignoring this person's not in alignment with you? For those of you, especially where it's romantic or a friendship even, right? This person's not aligned. Let them go. Let them go. Six of Wands is at the bottom again. Ace of Swords is the truth. Maybe for some of you, you're receiving the bare minimum. Okay. Some of you have a mother wound that needs your attention here. Breadcrumbed, being breadcrumbed by someone. That's the truth. That's the reality. We're holding on to something. Four of Pentacles is attachment. It's also about possession and control. Okay. Two of Wands. The Hanged Man. This is also disillusionment. Because the Hanged Man has to do with Neptune energy. And this is about having a change of perspective. Meaning the veil is being lifted from over our eyes. The truth is out. This is what you need to see. What you need to recognize. Some of you are being breadcrumbed. Some of you where you are putting in so much effort, right? That Eight of Pentacles to hold on to something desperately because we fear loss. Again, we're going to what's the root of the problem here? That Five of Pentacles. Self-worth issues. We don't feel like we're good enough. We don't feel like we're worthy enough or that we're not deserving of more. We fear abandonment. We fear rejection. We want to be seen. Okay, this can come through being emotionally neglected by, either parent. I don't want to just limit it to say it's mom, but some of you, this is a mother wound. This is not receiving love or nurturing from this parent. Maybe it's a parent who doesn't have boundaries. A parent, a mother who's emotionally unavailable, who's not present, who ignores, who's distracted. And sometimes this happens too when mom is busy, mom is working, lots of, working and having to take care. Sometimes we have single parents, right? Where mom's got to work 2 jobs to take care of children. And sometimes we just, we don't have that bond. Or sometimes we can also be dealing with a mother or a parent who is emotionally unavailable, who's emotionally shut down, closed off, because they too have gone through trauma. Okay, there's many different reasons why. Some of it, yes, is neglect. Yeah. Some of you could be holding on to friendships too, right? Where the person is controlling. I used to have a friend like that too, who was very controlling and jealous and possessive, a female friend. And I didn't have a voice to stand up to her back then, to have boundaries with her, to say, hey, don't talk to me like that, or don't say things like that to me. I didn't say anything. I was too afraid that she was gonna not be my friend anymore. So there's many ways in which this can come through in our life and show up. But again, at the root of it is that wound there that we need to take a look at. And that here with your inner voice that's trying to tell you is that, are we seeking validation outside of ourselves of our worthiness? That's where healing that 5 of Pentacles energy, that wound of lack. Because if we feel the way that we're meant to feel, right, in this Empress energy, which is the embodiment of love, we're not going to feel empty. We don't need someone outside of ourselves to tell us you're worthy, you're lovable, because we feel confident in ourselves and we love ourselves. We feel beautiful, we feel attractive, we feel handsome, we feel worthy and lovable and desirable, and we know what our worth is. We're not looking for external validation to tell us that we're worthy, or that if a person rejects us or abandons us, our self-worth goes down the toilet. And then we feel like we're not good enough, because we're placing this outside of ourselves. When we work on healing this aspect of ourselves, the feminine energy, nurturing ourselves, self-love, sometimes this means reparenting. The 5 of Pentacles is connected to the root chakra. The root chakra is developed very early in our life. It has to do with survival. It has to do with, love. It has to do with bonding with our caregivers, with security, with having money for food, with having shelter, right? Those are the basic needs. And if we don't have that during our childhood, guess what? We turn into adults who are constantly functioning from survival. The clinging onto any way we can get it so that we don't feel that lack of security. right? Because all we're seeking, right, is love, is someone to make us feel secure, because we don't feel secure. We don't feel loved. So if someone's going to give us just a little bitty breadcrumb, right, it's going to help. We're going to hold on to it, and it's going to make that feeling go away. But that is the thing that we're needing to face, right? That we're needing to look at here. And sometimes, like I said, that does mean reparenting. Connecting with your inner child, letting them know they are lovable, they are worthy, they are safe, that you're there to protect them, that you love them. Okay, so take a look, right? Let's take a look at the relationships that we have in our life. The 7 of Wands, if this is how we feel, if we feel neglected, like, no, that's not good enough. And that person is either going to show up for you the way that you need them to, or they can go. Okay. Of course, with family members, you know, it's a little more difficult, because there are certain family members that just don't change. They don't have self-awareness. And we can certainly limit the ways in which we interact with that person and how much we let that person into our life. I know some of you are just like, I just cut this person off. You know, whatever works for you, whatever, you know, where you honor yourself, you honor your feelings. And if you feel like it feels like a one-sided relationship, even with a family member, take a step back. Speak your truth. Say, hey, you know what? I noticed that, you know, I'm always helping you, or you're always asking me for money, or you're always asking me for your help. But what do you give to me? How do you help? You know, you always want something from me, but what do you give back? And sometimes if we don't say anything, people will just keep letting it slide. Right? Especially with family members, where sometimes people have the idea that just because it's family, that's what family's for. No, we've got boundaries. You've got to have healthy boundaries. Okay, so let's see what else here. Anything else that group 1 needs to know? Anything else you want to talk about, bring up for group number 1 during this time? We have past life connections and investment. So some of you, I'm also seeing deep breathing here at the bottom. Deep breathing for anxiety and stress relief. And I'm also seeing you were chosen. Okay. Truth and honesty needs to be spoken. You were chosen. Maybe for some of you with a family generational cycle that you need to stop. Again, this is what I was talking about earlier, the cycle here. But Spirit's advice here, deep breathing for anxiety and stress relief. Okay. Let's look at this a little bit. You were chosen. Truth and honesty needs to be spoken. Let's ask again, just for extra confirmation. What is this truth that needs to be spoken by group number 1? What is this truth that needs to be spoken? The 8 of Wands, the Knight of Swords, Queen of Pentacles. Again, we've got a relationship here with the Justice card. There is the Five of Pentacles. Look at that. Justice is about fairness and balance. Okay? Four of Wands, balance, harmony in relationships, in the home environment, with family. Queen of Pentacles is stable, secure, invested, right? We've got investment here. Is it fair? Are you investing more than the other person? The Knight of Swords is a need for you to speak your truth. You know, the Knight of Swords is about being brave, about being confident and courageous to say it directly, to communicate here. The Knight of Swords is a warrior-like energy. So if you feel this person, whoever they are, is not meeting your needs, you have to say that. This is not good enough. This is not enough. Look at everything that I'm doing here, and I feel like you're not doing anything. So they have a choice to make. They're either going to choose to reciprocate your energy in a fair and balanced way. But if they don't, you need to be honest with yourself against where Spirit's asking you. Are you going to continue to ignore your needs? Can you really see yourself doing this for the long time? Because pretty soon, right, especially if this is a romantic relationship or a marriage, pretty soon, you're going to develop resentment. And what might happen when you're in a marriage or in a long-term relationship with someone where you're constantly, your needs are not being met, you're going to get bored. You might, not all of you, okay? I know, because even though some of you could be married to someone or in a long-term relationship, and even though your needs are not being met, you still might be saying, okay, I'm not going to cheat. But sometimes when we're not addressing those deeper needs that we have, we might look outside for validation. Because if we're not getting it here, right, someone else could give us that emotional connection. Right? It happens. It happens. I do plenty of love readings for people, and I see it every day. Every day that I'm doing readings, third-party readings, because people are married or they're in relationships and their needs are not being met and they're not saying anything, or they have said something and nothing's done about it. It hasn't been fixed. It hasn't been corrected. And eventually there could be someone else who tempts them into an emotional connection, or sometimes more than that. Or, like I said, there's those that are like, nope, it's not the right thing to do. I'm not a cheater. And we stay in it and end up neglecting our needs. But it's not fair, right? It's not balanced. So this is where Spirit is saying that truth and honesty needs to be spoken about a need to put the effort in. And if they're not, and the person's not changing, not focusing on nurturing the relationship better, we need to really decide if this is really what's best for you, for those of you that need to get out of that. What is this past life connection here? Eight of Pentacles. So this might even be situations that you've had where you continue to invest so much of your energy and end up feeling completely drained. And it could be something that starts to affect your mental health and cause fears and anxiety. What is this about group number one being chosen? What were they chosen for? What were they chosen for? Eight of Cups and the Page of Wands. This is about self-discovery. Okay, self-discovery. The Eight of Cups is about walking away also. It's also about walking away from things that do not serve you. What are you focusing on discovering here? The Empress. What it means to be loved. What it means to have a healthy, balanced relationship. What it means to love yourself. Sometimes we have to love ourselves enough to walk away. That's hard. But this is where you have to put yourself first. So this might be some of you that, I mean, I feel like all of you, all of you that chose this group, you guys are cycle breakers, generational cycle breakers here, with some wound here surrounding the mother wound, the feminine energy, where you are that one out of your family line that is healing the feminine, that is feeling more confident, more beautiful, more desirable, more attractive, more worthy, learning to love yourself and taking that time to discover who you really are and what your needs are and your desires and having them being met, allowing yourself to receive instead of you being the one all the time who's giving and giving and giving and giving, and you're not letting yourself receive. Okay. All right, group one, this was a good one. I hope that this was helpful for you guys, and I will see you in the next reading. Hi, group two. So those of you that resonated with the blue agate and card number 8, self-awareness, we have observe from a balanced perspective. Okay, so we're going to start off with the message from the guidebook to see what this is talking about. Then we're going to pull your tarot. So number 8. Okay. This card talks of the control the external world can have on our internal reality. Both unpleasant and pleasant experiences can influence, even direct and bind our thoughts. Unpleasantness can lead to anxiety or depression. Pleasure can lead to being reliant on something outside of yourself just to feel okay. While there is nothing inherently wrong with either scenario, when you look to the external world for validation, confidence, or material worth, or to feel in control, liked, or loved, you are relying on conditions being a certain way. It is time to take back control of your thoughts and focus attention on your unconditional inner world. Your heart is your soul's perspective and the key to self-awareness. Turn inwards and become an unbiased witness to thoughts and emotional reactions. Align your vision with the way your authentic self and soul see. When you expand your awareness, you can easily become a conscious observer and make empowered choices. Okay? So let's see what's coming through here for group number 2. For those of you that chose this group and you also felt drawn to group 1, I would say to watch that, okay? What is the message from your shadow self? Group number 2. We have the Ace of Wands, the Four of Pentacles, Page of Cups, Eight of Pentacles, and the Hierophant. Let's see if we can fit this up here. Okay. What is the message from your shadow self? Ten of Pentacles. Ace of Cups, the Nine of Cups in reverse. Eight of Wands, the Strength card. And then we have the Chariot. Eight of Swords is at the bottom with the Five of Cups. With the Six of Cups. Okay, so this group does make me feel, and I wonder if that's going to just be what's going on today, but this group makes me feel like this message here from your shadow self is tied into relationships with other people. Okay. It makes me feel that those of you that have chosen this group have been let down by people a lot. People that you could have really liked or loved or even married, even been in a long-term relationship with. And it feels like you're someone who truly loves love. You may even be the type of person who pictures for yourself kind of like this very romantic, fairy tale-like way of, you know, finding that person. And, you know, the Page of Cups is a very sweet energy. It's a very fantasy-like and very daydreamy, and it's all about romantic infatuation. And the Four of Pentacles has to do with attachment and clinging on to someone. We have the Ace of Wands and the Ace of Cups here, which is about potential, you know. So you might really see the potential of what someone could be, even if the version of them, you know, let's just say initially when you meet someone and everything just feels great, it feels amazing. But then as time kind of goes on and you're putting in so much effort into building or maintaining something, I feel like you get let down. And it leads to dissatisfaction and maybe even, you know, even feelings of like, did I do something wrong? You know, I thought that this was special, what I had with this person. And I feel like you're someone who likes to see the good in people and really sees beyond, tries to see beyond maybe certain things that could be going on with them, like fears or insecurities, and you try to see like the version of them that they first show to you when you first meet them, and then see how much potential they actually have. If only they would see that within themselves, you know, or if they would work on themselves a little bit, then they would be, you know, perfect. Or if they could go back to the version of themselves that they were in the beginning, you know, that it could be something that leads to something successful. And I feel that some of you might even have a tendency to obsess a little bit. To obsess a little bit over someone, because, you know, again, the Page of Cups energy is about infatuation. you know, and during that stage when we're falling for someone, we can be sometimes very rosy-colored glasses, you know, with not seeing the person or the situation clearly. This is also the stage in which we can miss a lot of red flags, you know. Some of you might also have difficulties with moving on from relationships. Yeah, you might have a difficult time with letting go. So what do I want to look at here? I feel like we're going to go back in here and we're going to ask Spirit here what you need to be more self-aware of. I do feel like Spirit is showing here, because we are asking today, you know, a message from your shadow self. I feel like when you go through these types of situations, it might be something that does mess with your self-esteem and your confidence in yourself. Some of you might even be a little shy and afraid of opening up and sharing your feelings with people. You might be afraid of expressing yourself. So I want to ask Spirit here, what you need to be self-aware of. What does group 2 need to be self-aware of? Queen of Swords. Now, the Queen of Swords is about discernment. Oh, look at that. Look how they're facing each other. Observe from a balanced perspective. That's what, look at how the Queen is observing the Queen of Cups. We've got 2 queens here. Now, the Queen of Swords, like I said, is about discernment. It's about clarity. Notice how she's got her head, or her sword in her head above the clouds, which means that she can see clearly. Her mind is clear, right? Here in this 5 of Cups, our mind is not clear. Look at that, how it's just kind of, you know, the 8 of Swords energy is a lot of negative thoughts, a lot of self-limiting beliefs. This is very heavy energy, and these emotions can cloud our judgment. So the balanced energy here, we're seeing the head and the heart, the mind and the heart. We've got the 10 of Wands. What is group number 2? Okay, so 6 of Swords energy here. We've got 4 of Pentacles up there, which is about clinging. It's about attachment. What is group number 2 needing to be more self-aware of? Magician in reverse. Page of Pentacles, King of Pentacles. Okay, and I do notice how this Queen is kind of coming out sideways. I'm going to leave her like that because I feel like this is what the challenge is here. Yeah, I really feel group number 2. If you did feel kind of torn between group 1 and group 2, please watch group number 1. Because I almost kind of feel like there's some Like this group is kind of like a continuation of what the message was in that group, because the Queen and the King of Pentacles, they are about having a stable, secure relationship where they're both invested. They're both nurturing here, right? They both have the same goal in mind. They're both on the same page in order to help something to progress and to move forward. And the way that this Queen of Pentacles is coming out sideways like this, it kind of makes me feel like there's a challenge here with one person in a relationship where one person is not as invested as the other one is. And you might have a tendency to try to continue because your feelings are in it. You have so much of your heart in it, and maybe overcome by feelings and emotions for someone that you're not thinking clearly. You may not see that the person that you're dealing with, for some of you, doesn't have the same intention as you. It isn't putting forth the same focus of energy as you are with going all in and investing. You know, the Chariot is about the balance of two opposing forces of energy. And let's just say if we're dealing with a relationship situation, this means two people who share a common goal. They both want the same thing. They're both in it to say, okay, we're working together to build a relationship here, and we're both on the same page. But this kind of feels that, you know, sometimes you could feel so connected to someone and really see the potential of having something long term with them because of the bond that you have, and you feel like you share that with them. But like I said, it's kind of like you get let down because the person could end up breadcrumbing you or putting in very little investment. There could also be a big difference here between you and the other person, with you being very open and loving and nurturing with the relationship with someone who's detached, who's withdrawn, who's closed off, right? And if at first the person seems so sweet and so loving and so caring and so attentive, and then they change. And then we're just like, what happened? You know, where we begin to have communication issues. We end up feeling unsatisfied, unfulfilled. And all the while, you might find yourself being the one who's trying to work so hard to chase or to put so much of an investment of your time and energy into something where the other person isn't reciprocating your energy. And is holding on to this a burden? Is it weighing you down? Is there a need for moving on? This could also be knowing when to let go, you know? Because with the head and the heart here, the mind and the heart, you know, the heart, of course, wants certain things. And sometimes we can feel so emotional about something that we're not thinking clearly. We're not seeing clearly. We're not using discernment. So there's a need for you to be more self-aware with perhaps who you connect with, how you invest your time and energy, to make sure that we're not being clingy or obsessive or controlling or possessive over something, or unwilling to let go, especially if the other person's not on the same page as us. You know, do we have a tendency to obsess? Do we have a tendency to be controlling or try to force something to happen with someone? So we've got to balance, right, what we're feeling with logic, with discernment, with clarity. Because sometimes what we're seeing, it might not be what we like, right? But that's us being really honest with ourselves to look at things in a balanced way, not just with our feelings, and also not just from the mind where we don't connect to the feelings, right? And that often happens with certain people too. I'm sure many of you, from watching my readings on the other channel too, on the Moon Moth Goddess channel, or you've watched other readers, if you've ever watched a love reading where people are dealing with people who are avoidance or people who are emotionally unavailable, where a lot of those people function from the mental space and they're disconnected from the heart, right? And that can also happen to us, where if we've been super hurt in the past, where we become so guarded that we detach ourselves from our feelings and close ourselves off and shut down and begin to feel that it's hopeless, that we won't be able to find someone because we're so guarded. So we need to be, in the way that Spirit is kind of describing this here, to be more self-aware of the thoughts that you have, to bring awareness to what you're thinking, right? Your inner voice, and also to how we're feeling. But the Queen of Cups represents emotional stability, being in an emotionally stable place. Because if our emotions are all over the place, we're not going to be able to think clearly. So back to what this book was talking about, right? Number 8, let me see this, where it's talking about us perhaps seeking, what does it say? This card talks of the control the external world can have on our internal reality. Both unpleasant and pleasant experiences can influence, even direct, and bind our thoughts. What is that 8 of Swords? Binded thoughts. Unpleasantness can lead to anxiety and depression. This is way overthinking in our head. Just what if this? What if that? Thinking, right? Pleasure can lead to being reliant on something outside of yourself just to feel okay. When you look to the external world for validation, confidence, or material worth, or to feel in control, liked or loved, you're relying on conditions being a certain way. It's time to take back control of your thoughts and focus attention on your unconditional world. How do you feel? Where is your mental space at? Do we feel grounded? Do we feel secure? Some of you, because the 8 of Pentacles also has to do with self-mastery, really working on the self. Some of you, this could even be working on healing your inner child. Okay. I feel like I want to ask Spirit here, where is this grief coming from? Or what is this grief over? Or disappointment? Clarify this 5 of Cups here, Spirit. Ace of Cups. Okay, so there's a need for emotional release here. The Hermit in reverse can talk about deeper introspective issues that we need to look at within the self. Okay, so self-awareness of where the headspace is at, the heart is at, the feelings, the emotions. If we've got this going on, right? Depression, sadness, regret, shame, guilt, disappointment, hopelessness, the 8 of Swords, negative thinking, self-limited beliefs. Where is it coming from? Right? Sometimes if we're putting a lot of attention on other people right? Outside world. What about your internal world? Your shadow self is trying to bring your attention inwards, right? So the cause, right, for this, the Hermit energy in reverse, deeper introspective issues that are going on, and the way that we find out, right? Because sometimes if we're feeling sad, we're like, okay, let me try to, entertain this situation over here because then that'll make me feel not depressed anymore, not sad anymore. But no, it's temporary, right? It's putting a Band-Aid over it. What do we really need to look at here? There's pain here. There's pain. Where is it coming from? The Ace of Cups is a need for emotional release, right? Because when we have unprocessed feelings, emotions, and our mental space is not in a good place, it's coming from somewhere. It's something that we've overlooked, that we've not paid attention to, that we've neglected. Some of you, it is childhood. Some of you, it could even have to do with religion, culture, conditioning, societal expectations, right? That's all that energy that comes from that Hierophant. Now, religion, culture, traditional beliefs, values, things like that that are passed down from our parents, sometimes they're very healthy and they're very supportive, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're very rigid. Sometimes they're very limiting. Okay? Sometimes we let ourselves stay like this for too long, right? Where we have unprocessed, unreleased feelings and emotions. So if you're dealing with depression, sadness, a lot of anxiety, a lot of, fears, insecurities, we want to dive deeper into the self because it starts to affect us, right? When we're holding on to these energies, it starts to affect the physical body. Muscle aches, fatigue, inability to focus, right? Our Magician's in reverse. That's an inability to focus. Can't think straight, can't work. Maybe we feel unmotivated. We don't have a routine, maybe. Maybe we lack discipline, organization. Maybe we stopped self-care. Right? These things are clues. They're your body's way or your mind's way of telling you, hey, something's not right. It starts to show up, like I said, physical. It starts to show up as physical manifestations in the body when we're holding on to energies that we haven't dealt with, feelings, emotions, thoughts that we have not dealt with. We get headaches. We might have anxiety. We might feel depressed. We might feel, like I said, unmotivated, no drive. Sometimes we might feel lazy, but it's not laziness. It's not. Depression isn't just being sad. It's our nervous system that's stuck. So we have to bring a state of peace and calm back into the mind, back into the heart, and address these deeper wounds. Sometimes people have gut issues, joint pain. So many different ways it can show up, right? And those are, like I said, those are the clues. They're your body's way of telling you, we're holding on to something here. We got to release this energy. So this feels like this could go deeper. I mean, some of you could have even, went through with your parents getting divorced and not feeling secure. Not having a parent present. And wanting something different for yourself. Again, that whole, like I said, some of you with, the Hierophant, the Ten of Pentacles, that's long-term relationship. Stability, security. Some of you getting married. Because sometimes we don't have that growing up. So we want that for ourselves. We're saying, oh, well, my parents got divorced. Or we have parents who had a beautiful relationship where they've been married to their sweetheart for 50 years. And then we're just like, well, I want that too. I want to have that too. Why is the Ten of Swords here? Four of Swords. Nine of Swords in reverse. This is healing. Overcoming anxiety, fears, worrying, stressing, overthinking, overanalyzing. Again, there's a lot of mental stuff going on here, right? So we want to bring awareness instead of focusing on the outside world, what's going on within you. Because the Page of Cups, like I said, it's such a sweet energy. But when we're dealing with these kind of energies surrounding it, what is that page doing? Fantasy, daydream. What does that mean? Escapism. There's a lot of stuff that we're not dealing with here. The fantasy is better than the reality. These are the uncomfortable things within the shadow that we don't want to deal with, that we don't want to look at. This is where delving deeper into that inner work, into the darkness, into the shadow, which is uncomfortable. And that's why a lot of people don't do it. don't want to do it. They just don't. Because it's not easy work. It's a lot of you facing yourself. Facing insecurities that we have. If we're a person who overthinks, who overanalyzes, who becomes, like I said, obsessive, infatuated, it could even lead to that point where we might lose touch with reality, where we become delusional. I feel like I want to clarify that Page of Cups. King of Cups, the Hierophant, and the Four of Pentacles. Some of you might have, I'm seeing the Emperor. Some of you might have a wound surrounding a masculine or a father wound, which is interesting because group 1 was a mother wound. Some of you may have had a masculine who really hurt you and broke your heart. Okay. And there's a lot of pain here that in a way your shadow is wanting you to look at, because it's causing us, this pain here is causing us in this situation to act out a certain way or to cause certain emotional state, mental state. And it's kind of like we're ignoring this or neglecting in this or in denial about it. And we're not seeing, we're choosing not to see something here. Some of you, this is a father wound. Some of you may have also lost your father, lost a parent, had a father pass away very early for some of you, okay? When you were still a kid. It could also be having a father not present, meaning dad was out of the picture. And so it kind of feels like there's an inner child here who's seeking love, nurturing, security. And there's nothing wrong with that. The Emperor is provider, protector, stability, and security, right? We're not wrong for wanting to have that in a relationship. You're worthy of that. But do we have a skewed vision here of what the masculine energy is when we're choosing a partner? Are we having a tendency to put a certain person into that role of the Emperor who they aren't ready to be that? Because with the Emperor, I mean, those are some big shoes to fill, right? The Emperor is all about building and providing and protecting and, really holding something together. It's about loyalty. And so some of you might even have not had the best, the best role model when it comes to the masculine energy. Whether that was your own father, okay, not showing up for you, not being present, and your inner child is kind of like seeking that paternal, fatherly love and support and care and stability and protection, and not having that. So at the root of this, right, we've got an inner child here who's seeking that love, that security, right? Because sometimes, and I was actually working on with a client on this. There was actually 2 so far that I've had with this kind of wound here, where sometimes the adult relationships that we have can mimic the relationship that we've had with a parent. And the 2 clients that I've had were dealing with a relationship situation with a male partner, and the male partner triggered a wound, right? And the clients were focusing so much on trying to heal that wound with that male partner. And as I was kind of working through the reading, we uncovered through going through it, it was actually the father. The father was at the root of that issue. So instead of kind of just glazing the top of a situation where we're thinking, oh, why can't I heal from this relationship with this person that's hurt me? It went deeper. Because it's not about that person. There's something deeper here. So some of you, this is connected to father. And you could have even been raised by a father with the Hierophant being present that was very strict and had certain rules, maybe even growing up in a very religious or culturally kind of with certain rules. And, if you were different or wanted to express yourself creatively in a different way that your father did not agree with or your parents didn't agree with, and not really allowing you to express yourself, that could be another thing here where you felt like you're not accepted. right? So general reading, like I said, this is going to be different for all of you, but there's a deep pain here. So your message, right, from your shadow self is trying to draw you in deeper into this inner work, into the darkness, to face the source of this pain, which as you're dealing with it right now, right, maybe we've got anxiety, maybe we've got a little bit of depression, maybe we're dealing with attachment issues, but where are they coming from? This is where we delve deeper into that work. You know, sometimes we can put a partner on a pedestal and say, oh, I want them to be that ember. I want them to be this person that's going to give me this long-term relationship and provide stability and security. And they're so not that. Right? But like I said, for some of you in the beginning, where you might be very, like just loving love and seeing the potential of people that they may not even see in themselves yet, or they're not ready to step into that role, into that level of maturity, where you might see, oh yes, they could be that type of person, but then neglecting to see how they're not stepping up and they're not being what you need them to be. So sometimes we might be putting people in that role and not seeing that they're either not capable of it, right? Because they don't have the tools, or they're just not there yet, right? Where we're trying to hold on to someone to make them be that person for us, when in fact, you know, maybe because we're attached to them, we got feelings for them and we want them to be that person, but they're just not, you know? And I feel for many of you, this is what's happening here, is it's touching on a deeper wound here, that has to do with the masculine energy, you know? Sometimes that could look like in our life where we end up choosing the wrong people, you know? My father wasn't present throughout my whole life. I just met him, I think in 2021. I thought that he was not alive, that he had passed my entire life. So my entire life I was grieving his absence, you know, because I thought he was no longer on this earth. But come to find out, I did a DNA test and he was alive. He was alive, and I met him, and, you know, I'm glad I met him. I'm glad. But yeah, it's kind of like where you might not have those role models to look up to say, okay, this is what the masculine energy should be, you know, or this is what would make a good partner, the qualities of the divine masculine, right? And we don't have that all the time. We don't have that role model. Sometimes we grow up in dysfunctional families where we are used to toxic masculine, and we might be attracted to toxic masculine, right? So we don't know any better, where we got the rosy colored glasses on, you know? Yeah. Okay. So let's see if there's anything else that Spirit has for you, group number 2. Anything else you want to let group 2 know? Anything else group 2 needs to be aware of at this time? We have earthing. It says protection and grounding, dispelling negative energy. So basically earthing is when you go outside, you take off your shoes, and you let the soles of your feet touch the ground, preferably grass, dirt, the earth, okay? Because that's going to help you to feel more grounded. We can also release a lot of energy. Nature is very healing. Okay, going for a walk, sitting outside, putting your back up against a tree, putting your feet in the soil, digging your feet in the sand, right? If you're close to a beach. We have spirit animals have a message for you. We'll look at that. Anything else for group 2? Let's just take that top one. Your guides connect with you in nature. Okay. Get a second opinion. I don't know what that is. Okay, but Spirit's saying getting a second opinion, if for those of you that might be, I don't know, maybe going through something. We have accept all parts of yourself, and it says shadow work will help you discover your purpose. Okay, so I want to look at the spirit animals here. Accept all parts of yourself, which is part of shadow work too. We're integrating the shadow. We're not ignoring it and trying to pretend like it doesn't exist. It's a part of you. Okay, what is the message from the spirit animals? Actually, well, no. Let me pull the tarot first, and then I want to see what animal maybe comes through. What is the message? What is the message from the spirit animals? Knight of Swords, the Sun. Yeah. So the Knight of Swords is a very focused energy. It's about moving forward. The Three of Wands has to do with foresight, thinking ahead, planning ahead, anticipating. This could be shifting your focus towards positivity, towards happiness, towards joy. Things that bring you joy, people that bring you joy, people that light up your life. This can also be focusing your attention towards filling your life with things that make you happy, that make you smile, not make you cry, not make you feel confused, not make you feel all of these awful feelings, right? Not that the awful feelings are something that we should never feel, because that's life, right? We deal with ups and downs, and not everything is pleasant. But if we have gone through difficult things, challenging things, understand that that is temporary, okay? We honor what it is that's coming up for us, whatever feelings that we have, but we can understand with the Sun here that the Sun is about being optimistic. It's about seeing maybe the silver lining in all of this, about focusing on better days ahead, you know? Not that we're not acknowledging our pain, or that we're ignoring it, or that we're suppressing it and not giving it the attention that it needs, but we can shift the focus towards a more positive energy, more towards, thinking about how far you've come in your life, and what's to come for the future, the plans that you have for the future, making certain choices, you know? So what is the spirit animal that is coming through for group 2 today? Okay. The bee with community. It says you are a powerful creator. Your work blesses everything you touch. Be open to receiving sweetness. You are the queen of abundance. Okay? So maybe for some of you with the bee here, with community, that this could be you engaging with the community. Maybe it's a healing community. Maybe it's a spiritual community. Maybe it is you taking some kind of a class to make new friends, to surround yourself with people that are positive, that are uplifting, that are supportive. Okay? All right, so I'm going to leave this here for you, group number 2. I do hope this was helpful for you guys, and I will see you in the next reading. Hi, group 3. So those of you that resonate with card number 34, Intimacy Shadow, it says Beyond Fear to Connection, with the little fuchsia dyed crystal here. This is going to be a reading. So what we're going to be starting off with is the message from the guidebook. The secret language of darkness. Because we're getting a message from your shadow self today. So I'm going to just check first, because this might be a little bit of a tricky subject for YouTube. But we'll see, just to make sure that I'm not saying anything that I shouldn't be saying on YouTube. Okay, so it looks okay. All right, so it says, some people seem to flow with the tides as friendships, relationships, and lovers move in and out of their lives. For others, being open to intimacy can take courage, and each meeting and parting can start up a roller coaster of insecurity. Wounds of rejection or abandonment can run deep and cause the bearer to build walls around their heart to protect it from pain. This card is a message that any walls you have around your heart will soon be shifting, so you can dismantle them and begin to create the relationships you have always desired. Once the barriers soften and fall away, you will be able to hear the wisdom of your love language, the voice of your heart. These whispered blessings of support and acknowledgement will build your confidence and capacity to give and receive love. Relationships can be rich, passionate journeys into the profound truth of who you are. Through them, you can see yourself through another's eyes. They can reveal areas of yourself that you can embrace or heal. Vulnerability is not a weakness. The more you let people in, the stronger you can become, regardless of the outcome. In time, trust may be broken or strengthened. Either way, intimate relationships can heighten your experience of life. It is all part of the learning process. Relax. You are discovering the type of relationship you desire with yourself and others. Let love in. Okay? So let's start off with the tarot and see what your message from your shadow self is about this, and then we'll kind of go back in if we need to ask any clarifying questions. Okay. Group number 3. What is the message from your shadow self? 6 of Pentacles, 3 of Swords, the Strength card, Queen of Pentacles, the Tower, 7 of Wands. Okay. So really this is about you bringing your wall down. Okay. This is about you overcoming these fears of being hurt. It could also be betrayal, because, you know, with any kind of relationship, whether it's a friend, a family member, a coworker, a romantic partner, you know, we've all been hurt by someone. And sometimes if it keeps happening, right? And I certainly have been through that experience too with friends. I've had a lot of them, I don't have them anymore. I don't have those friends anymore. But for a long period of time in my life, I experienced a lot of betrayal with female friends. In the worst possible ways. Just, oh my goodness. And I kept noticing that it kept happening over and over and over again. That's another story for a different day. But I knew that after I had went through all of that I was very not wanting to let people in. Rather be alone, because every single female friend that I would have would betray me. And it was like clockwork. It would just keep happening. And I was just like, no, no more. No more of this. So even now, I'm very selective with who I choose to open up to. I have more discernment. I have more wisdom with being able to look for certain behavioral patterns, traits within people that are showing to me that maybe that person and I would not be in alignment with each other. So certainly more selective. And I'd rather have a few friends than have a whole bunch, that are not good quality friendships or have good traits, And trust is an important thing, honesty and integrity. So yeah, certainly more selective. But for a long period of time, I just put the wall up where I was not letting anyone in at all. And so this could be where we have for group 3, where you've become so maybe hurt by people. Again, doesn't matter what kind of relationship it is. But really the message from your shadow here is about overcoming those fears of getting hurt. Because in order for us to connect intimately with someone, and that could be emotional intimacy, it could be physical intimacy, we have to let the wall down. We have to be vulnerable. It doesn't mean that we're going to be foolish and that we're not going to have boundaries and that we're not going to use discernment, right? But we have to let the wall down. And I feel like that's what the message is here. The 9 of Wands is here, which is very wounded energy. It's very weary, right? You may have gone through a lot energetically with people and situations. And so this block here in this wall maybe for a time you didn't have boundaries, right? With certain people. The 6 of Pentacles is about receiving, and that's what this card is talking about. Allowing yourself to receive, letting love in, letting yourself bond and connect with people more deeply, right? The 2 of Cups is an emotional connection. So even with a friendship, we want to feel a bond with someone. If it's a romantic partner, we want to be able to feel that, or a family member. Okay? Now, the Tower energy is the breakdown of a false reality, an illusion. We could look at it as the old version of you, okay? Or even the current version of you that we need to let go of and work towards releasing because we're worried about getting hurt here. The Strength card is about courage, confidence, bravery. It's a very fierce energy. And it's being able to, I feel like in a way this is you asserting yourself and your power, but in a way that is more calm and more grounded, in the way that Queen of Pentacles is. Okay? So what is the message from group number 3's shadow self? We have the Ace of Wands. We have the 8 of Wands and also the King of Cups. Okay, so like I said, your group might be a little bit trickier for me to say exactly what I want to say and how I want to say it, but I have to be mindful of YouTube. So this is most definitely the emotional aspect of connection with people. But they're also, with the Wands energy here, especially this Ace here, is passion, is chemistry, is attraction, is desire. And okay, how am I going to say this? For many of you, this might also be being more comfortable. Okay, being more comfortable with yourself and being more confident within yourself and speaking your needs, being able to voice and not being afraid, right, of rejection, when there are certain things that you would like, Okay. The Eight of Wands can also talk about communication. So we can communicate with someone, especially with the King of Cups. This is deep. Okay. King of Cups is about emotional maturity. It's about being a good listener. It's about having a good emotional support system. And it's also learning how to navigate through even our most challenging of emotions, right? It's being able to look that fear in the face and being able to overcome it. Okay. A little bit of clarification here. It's also, I feel like, because the Strength card also has to do with confidence. So you can confidently ask for what it is that you want, what it is that you desire when it comes from a connection. Okay. Let's see. What is this Ace of Wands energy? Yeah, there might be a lot of holding back here. A lot of holding back. The Devil is at the bottom with the King of Cups and the Nine of Swords. There's the wand again. Okay. We're going there. The Devil is here. The Devil is about repressed desires. Okay. So this could look like there are certain needs that we have, right? That we want to be fulfilled. And maybe we're afraid that it's not accepted, or that it's going to be looked down upon by others. They're going to have their opinions or their judgments, or maybe even a straight up fear with the Devil being here. The Nine of Swords is a lot of anxiety and a lot of overthinking and a lot of overanalyzing. There could be certain things that you want and could be afraid of talking to your partner because you feel like they're going to think that you're weird, or that you're, so in a way, we're repressing this part of ourselves. The Devil is our shadow. It's also our ego's desires. Sometimes we do need to indulge a little bit. Sometimes we do need to give into those things, as long as we're not, overdoing it or something of that nature. Okay. This makes me feel like you're confidently being you. The confidence to be yourself and to know that that version of you will be accepted, right? I feel like I want to clarify this Devil a little bit. Why is the Devil here? This wand, I'm telling you, you guys. This wand is here 3 times. 1, 2, and it's under there. Secure, being more secure in your desires. The Nine of Pentacles, and there's the Nine of Cups. I like that. The Nine of Cups is about satisfaction. It's about indulgence. Now, yes, sometimes we can overdo it, where it starts to become an unhealthy habit that we might have, right? But the Nine of Pentacles is about confidence. It's about you having a strong sense of self, a strong sense of identity, and knowing who you are and not being afraid of that part of you that likes certain things, that wants certain things, that desires certain things, and not feeling ashamed, not feeling guilty. Okay? It's you being comfortable in your own skin. Not being afraid of asking for what you want. Yeah, there's a lot I can't say, okay? There's a lot I can't say on YouTube. But some of you, yeah, it's passion. The Ace of Wands is passion. Satisfaction, fulfillment, contentment. You know, like I said, the devil has to do with repressed desires. So we could be repressing a lot of these desires for passion, for love, for deep emotional connection, all because of a fear of getting hurt. So in a way, it's kind of like we're denying ourselves this, right? This card is talking about you letting yourself receive what you desire, because the fears are taking over here. Eight of Swords, self-limiting beliefs. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if I get hurt? What if I open up my heart and the same thing happens? Why is the Three of Swords here? Four of Pentacles. Yeah, this is just closing off. Rejection. Some of you might fear rejection. Some of you, I feel like this fear is something that maybe even where you keep things very surface level, very casual. You don't really allow yourself to really deeply connect with someone. You know, you might feel an attraction to someone. You might feel a spark with them. But then don't let yourself really see what the potential of what that could be with someone, because we're too afraid of going deeper. So the Page of Wands is all about exploring and adventure and excitement, which is cool, you know, yes. Some of you might, you know, be like, okay, I'm single right now and I'm just having fun with the wand. Some of you, not all of you, but some of you might be, you know, and, you know, the Page of Wands is just not really, or what could happen too is that because you have this fear here of getting hurt, you could also attract people because of this wound that you have. You can also attract people who are emotionally unavailable, people who are not really investing, because they too might have some blockages here where they're emotionally unavailable and they're too afraid of love too. But you attract each other. I mean, you're attracting people based off of what your psychological wounds are, right? So if we have a fear of rejection and see like, okay, every time I open up my heart, people abandon me, they reject me, that becomes your belief, right? So we unconsciously may manifest people and situations into our life that reinforce what that belief system is. And then we're not consciously aware of it. So we're just like, wow, why do I keep meeting people who hurt my feelings? Why do I keep meeting people who are emotionally unavailable? Why do I keep meeting people who are closed off? It's because we are too. There's some aspect of yourself, even if it's on a subconscious level or unconsciously, we're just not letting ourselves get so deeply connected and putting up that wall because we're almost expecting the worst possible outcome. And so we attract people based off of that wound who are going to mirror to us that belief system that we have. And it only makes it true in our mind to say, oh, yeah, that's the belief that I have. Look, it keeps happening. It keeps happening over and over again. So we have to work on shifting that belief. We can't change the past. What's happened has happened, right? But we can release ourselves from the attachment to that wound and end the suffering and how it's limiting us from truly deeply connecting the way in which we crave and we desire inside to have that deep connection with someone, right? Those of you that have been betrayed, who've been cheated on, lied to, manipulated, right? With that devil energy. That can send the fear in us of like, I am never opening up my heart again. I don't trust people anymore. We need to let go of the old story is what needs to happen with this tower. Release the old story. Because the mind is almost programmed, right? It keeps that old story on loop over and over and over and over again. We want to break free of that. So we end up missing out on opportunities, pushing people away, distracting ourselves from connecting with people emotionally. Or like I said, we might be attracting people into our life that reinforce that belief of rejection, of, people who are emotionally unavailable, things that don't progress and move forward. And then it's just like, oh, see? Yeah, that's why this is, so it just makes us just not want to do it at all, not want to be near anybody. Stay single. Stay single so we don't get hurt. But then we end up denying ourselves, right? That love. Truly connecting with someone deeply. Really bonding in a very meaningful way. Which with the 5, we've got the 5 of Cups here at the bottom of that deck. 5 of Cups is grief. It could even be guilt, shame, disappointment, discouragement, feeling let down, feeling hopeless. Like love's just never going to happen. I guess we're just going to be single forever, right? That kind of thinking. Or even like for those of you that are actually in a relationship, we still might feel like this. That our emotional needs are not being met, or our other needs are not being met, physical needs. So let's look at this tower here. Why is the tower here? The 6 of Swords. This is healing. And the Emperor. Some of you might have a wound here surrounding a specific masculine. Okay. Or a person. Doesn't even need to be regardless of gender. It could be a person who, some of you, there's a father wound here. But for others of you, it could be a specific masculine who really hurt you, who really betrayed you. Sometimes, it is our parent that breaks our heart. Sometimes it is our first heartbreak, and I know that that is the case for some of you. But, regardless of gender, even though I'm saying masculine because the Emperor is here, some of you, yes, it does have to do with the masculine, but it could be anybody that we thought was supposed to protect us, supposed to be loyal, supposed to make us feel safe, make us feel loved, make us feel secure. And maybe that person didn't do that. And that's what we want to get to the root of this, right? Because when we're doing shadow work here, we want to look at those parts of ourselves, right? The shadow is made up of parts of ourselves that we have neglected, that we've rejected, that we've forgotten. And so this whole process of shadow work is about reintegration. It's about remembering. It's about reclaiming all those fragmented pieces of you so that you feel whole, right? That's what the shadow work is about. It's about you taking time to understand it. So I feel like where this fear of, love and intimacy comes from, and being able to connect with a person on a deep emotional level, there's something deeper here. And that was the case with all three groups today. It always is something deeper because we are who we are and we act the way that we act, right? And act out in certain ways, especially with the shadow, for a reason. There's something deeper for us to look at. And in this case, I feel for some of you, this could be tied surrounding a specific masculine who really hurt you. Some of you, it is your father. There's a father wound here. And some of you, like I said, it could be a person, regardless of gender, who you maybe felt let down by this person because you thought that they were the person who was supposed to support you or protect you or love you or, be loyal to you. Some of you, it's family, which is sad because sometimes we experience that with family members, where if we have a certain family member, an aunt, an uncle, a mom, a dad, a sibling, some kind of family wound we need to heal, right? And so instead of just kind of looking at just that, we want to look deeper into this. Five of Swords is here at the bottom with the Temperance card. Now, the Five of Swords does have to do with resentment. It has to do with manipulation, betrayal, feeling belittled or bullied by someone. It also has to do with being mistreated. Sometimes people say certain things that really hurt us, or, the way that we see ourselves, or, the Five of Swords is also victim mentality. And sometimes we do get stuck in that victim mindset. We could have that feeling of everybody hurts me, everybody lies, everybody, and I've certainly have been there too, in that very victim-like thinking, or I just didn't trust anybody. It's very defensive, because we're trying to protect ourselves. We don't want to get hurt. But this is where you heal that mentality, that mindset. Everybody's out to get to me. Everybody's going to hurt me. We've got to heal that mind space, okay? The mental space that thinks that way. Because healing this and with the Temperance card here, transmuting this energy, changing your thoughts, being more self-aware of them, because this can be that little voice inside of us that as soon as we meet someone, your voice is like, don't trust them. They're going to hurt you. They're a liar. Like all of that stuff that we just think because of our past experiences, that we're kind of tied into that story. Yeah. So that could be a lot of unresolved anger, a lot of resentment, a lot of unexpressed feelings, emotions, because of what we've gone through. Some of you could have been in some really toxic relationships with this Five of Swords. People that manipulate, people that put you down, say not so nice things to you. But sometimes this is also our inner voice. The inner voice that says, nobody loves you. Nobody wants you. No one likes you. They're just going to abandon you. They're just going to leave you, right? All that kind of voice. Which sends us further into that place of fear, of not wanting to get close to anyone. Not just, because I feel like there's different reasons, and I've seen it in the comments too, that people were staying single, Some people do it because, they're living their best life and they're focusing on their career, which is amazing. But sometimes we do it because we're too afraid, where we become kind of like hyper independent as a way to protect ourselves, like a defense mechanism. That whole mentality of like, well, I don't need anybody. It's more so kind of coming not from a healthy place, but in a way where we're trying to protect ourselves, that hyper independence. Because truly, we're here on earth to develop relationships with people, relationships are a huge part of our life, and our soul truly does crave connection. Not that we need it in order to survive, but it's, no. Because I feel like first and foremost, when we build that connection with ourself and feel love within the self and self-love, sometimes, we have certain people who are looking for something outside of themselves to fill a void, to fill an emptiness. We should always first look at self, right? But having connections is healthy, right? As long as they are connections that really align with you and that are supportive, because there's certainly connections that we can have that are very draining and that are very toxic, where it is better for us to just kind of take a step back from people like that, and re-center ourselves, ground, where we might need a little bit of a break sometimes. So I feel like maybe even looking at the reasons why, especially for those of you that are single, is it because of fear? Or are you, love life is not a priority right now? And that's totally okay, right? You could be all about you right now and going through a glow up and working on your career and making boss moves, and that's amazing. But sometimes, and I've seen it in the comments too, where people are just like, have a very negative attitude about it. And, and it's because of being hurt, where, like I said, it kind of becomes a defense mechanism where we feel like we just need to be alone, Yeah. That's something to kind of look at that too. What are the reasons that we're pushing connection away? You know, is it healthy? In a healthy way where we're putting ourselves first, because maybe for a long period of time we put others before ourselves, and we're, like I said, taking a break and we're nurturing ourselves and self-love and, you know, doing all the things in our life that make us happy and feel fulfilled. That's good. That's positive, right? But like I said, sometimes it's in a way where we've got control issues, or we have gone through some kind of trauma, where we're just like, nope, don't need anyone. We're, in a way, we're kind of blocking ourselves or denying ourselves from receiving, you know, where it's just more or less has become a defense mechanism where we don't have to be vulnerable. We don't have to risk getting hurt. Yeah. And that's where we might start to feel anxiety, stress, feeling burnt out. We might even neglect self-care, right? That's where it would kind of delve into the more negative, where that hyper independence can be like, well, no, I don't need anybody. But then we also stop taking care of self, you know? Sometimes, you know, when we've been mistreated, we can be bitter and angry and just like, you know, F everybody. F everybody. I don't want to be around anybody, you know? I certainly have been through that too in my life in the past, where I just had so many people that just get away, stay away from me. Yeah. But this is where Spirit is saying to really work towards that healing. Looking at our old thoughts, the fears, addressing them, working towards releasing them, healing them. Okay, so let's see what else, if there's anything else for you. Group number 3. I'm sure many of you know people like that too, where you know that they've been so hurt and so wounded that they just like push people away. We have become the best version of yourself, and we have past life karma. So I do want to look at that. We have you were chosen. And we have shadow work will help you discover your purpose. And soul fragmentation. And that's the whole part of doing the shadow work, is because we want to reclaim those parts of ourself. Okay, so let's ask Spirit here. What do you want to say about this soul fragmentation, Spirit? Knight of Swords. Oh, this card isn't even supposed to be in here. This is a different deck, but it's here, so this feels like this has something to do with security here. The Star is the healing part of this, and the Knight of Swords. Six of Wands, the Knight of Cups. I feel like when you're working on healing, you know, and feeling more secure within yourself, the Knight of Cups is vulnerability. You know, it's really about putting your heart out there. And the Six of Wands is about acknowledgement, recognition, validation, appreciation. But it's also about you recognizing what your heart desires, and that's love. It's connection. So I feel like what Spirit's saying here is that if we focus on the healing and feeling more secure and more grounded within the self, it's going to help you to feel more comfortable. And, you know, the star is about renewal. It's about feeling a sense of peace and calm, clearing things away, purification. And so if we can change the thoughts, right, because a lot of that is part of it, that is the fears, the insecurities, the worrying, the stressing, things like that. When we're healing the state of the mind to move away from that with more secure thoughts that are more grounded, it's going to help you to feel more open. But with the Queen of Swords, it's not like you were before, right? When we had that initial heartbreak or pain or whatever that is, sometimes we're just all heart and we don't see clearly. We don't, you know, because sometimes we have experiences with people where people manipulate, where people lie, and we're so trusting, right? But this time around, you've got the Queen of Swords here, which is beautiful. Because the Queen of Swords is about wisdom. It's about discernment. It's about clarity. It's about observing people, right? So it's not going to happen to us the way that it has in the past, where maybe, yeah, we put our heart on our sleeve and we were all heart and feelings and we got hurt. Why? Because we didn't have experience. We didn't have the experience. We didn't know what to look for, right? The Queen of Swords, she's kind of like the embodiment of the archetype of the woman scorned by love. She's more protective of her heart. She's more observant. You know, the Queen of Swords is like, she's going to pay attention to your words, to your actions, to your body language, the way that you move, the way that you act. She's going to notice those very subtle shifts of energy. Now, that's not about you being hyper vigilant or paranoid. You're just going to observe, right? And how you move forward with your heart and vulnerability. We're not going back out there all willy-nilly again, like maybe we have in the past. We're smarter this time. We've got that Queen of Swords energy. Okay? So what is this? Let's ask Spirit. What is this past life karma here? The Tower is what you're releasing. The past life karma is what you're needing to release. The old illusions, bringing this cycle to an end. Five of Pentacles is here. So Five of Pentacles has to do with abandonment, with being left out in the cold, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy. If you've ever been ghosted, if you've ever been rejected, if you've got an abandonment wound, okay, you could have certainly have carried over this wound from a prior lifetime into this incarnation. So why was group 3 chosen? What were they chosen for? What were they chosen for? 10 of Cups, which is about happiness. It's also by your family, okay? 2 of Pentacles and the 2 of Cups in reverse. So the 2 of Cups in reverse has to do with an imbalance in relationships and partnerships, even with dealing with partners that are inconsistent. Partners that were inconsistent. Even ones that may have made you feel like an option. 7 of Wands and the King of Swords. So there's the Queen at the bottom. So the 7 of Wands is about boundaries. This is about speaking up for yourself, learning to be more assertive, learning to find your voice, right? So if you're noticing, right, that there are certain people who are not aligned with you or who are not opening up, building connection with you, people that are out of alignment for you, this is you seeing that. And also paying close attention to who and what type of people you allow into your life, right? Because we can keep going on and on, right? With that fear of getting hurt, getting hurt, getting hurt. But if you're the Queen of Swords here, you can be more cautious, right? And more selective with who you choose to allow in your life. Why? Because you've got experience. You know what to look for. You know what the red flags are. You know the behavioral traits. You're also not going to move too quickly into relationships that maybe we once have in the past, right? Sometimes we just kind of like rush into something and get ourselves emotionally invested, go all in with our heart, and end up getting hurt. This is more skillful in its approach, right? We're going to pay close attention to you, how you choose your partners and the people that you allow into your life. You got better boundaries here. You learn to stand up for yourself. You learn to have healthy boundaries in relationships so that you don't get hurt. And that's not to say that, you'll never ever get hurt again, because we're here at Earth School. There is always going to be some kind of situation that we go through that we have no control over, but for the most part, right, we can be pretty good at being able to foresee things, right? Like, let's just say we first meet someone and we're going to go on a date with them, but already on that first date, we're seeing red flags, right? And you're the Queen of Swords. You're paying attention. You're writing it down in your little book. I saw that. I'm remembering that. Okay, we go out with the person on a second time. The issue gets worse, right? With that person, you saw it. You're noticing this is a pattern that this person has. Now, you, with your judgment here, have to make the best possible decision. Do we want that kind of person and that kind of energy in our life? Because we can cut it off right now. We can let this person go. Right? And it's not coming from, say, paranoia and fears. We're clear here. We're observing. We're watching. We're moving carefully. But if we choose, right, even though we saw those red flags and we keep going, guess what? We are putting ourselves at risk of getting hurt because we saw those red flags and we ignored them. We saw it, right? Sometimes I've heard some of you too, you say, my gut told me, my gut feeling told me no, and I went against it. I went with my ego, with my ego's desire of, oh my goodness, this person is so dreamy. I feel so attracted to them. So you were chosen. We've got the Queen of Swords here and the King of Swords. Okay. Now they are a duo. This is about clarity. To me, this is also you developing your sight, because the King of Swords is about higher consciousness, right? So you're really seeing things clearly. You're gaining a lot of insight. You're gaining a lot of wisdom. You're able to see the bigger picture. You're able to recognize and gain control over your mind, right? Because these things here that we're dealing with, they're putting us in that place where we're being triggered, where we are dealing with insecurities and fears that are coming up. They're putting our mind in that state of functioning from fear. This King and Queen of Swords here is you learning to master the mind, the thoughts, which changes when we have mastery here. It changes the way that we think, the way that we speak, the way that we act, and the choices that we make, so we can stop the pattern, choose differently, right? So you're chosen here in a way, for some of you, generational cycle breakers, right? Where you're in a way clearing this, and you're becoming so enlightened here with this information, with clarity, with logic, with clear rational thinking, of looking that fear straight in the face and saying, okay, now I understand why this is here, where it's coming from, and I'm able to process it. I'm able to work through it. I'm able to regain control of my mind and understand it's just a fear, that you are greater than that, that you can overcome that, and you can open yourself up again to receive love and not deny yourself love. Okay. Some of you where this is tied into a masculine, right? Or a father wound here for you. You could be breaking this cycle from maybe many, what do you call that? Generations, right? Or the relationship with your father and your father with their father. Or even say your mom with her father. Okay. All right. So I'm going to leave this here for you. Group number 3. I do hope this reading was helpful for you guys, and I will see you on the next one.